Is Simon. I live in both Estonia and Spain. I am 68, 69, old, semi-retired farm manager and agribusiness consultant. In my 20s, I was pretty active and reasonably fit. I was, and still am, 1.87 metres tall, 6'2" in old money. And in those days, I weighed in at 85 kilos, or 13 stone in old money. I was a heavy smoker and managed to completely stop smoking when I was 30 years old. A love of food, and especially beer, resulted in that by 35 years old, I was obese. I arrived at 39 years old, weighing 128 kilos or 20 stone. In early 1997, I joined a local gym and counted calories. And within 9 months, or in 9 months' time, I had managed to shrink myself to 90 kilos. I then stabilised at around about 92 kilos, 14.5 stone, and I was very, very happy. I remained pretty active, with rugby and gym nearly balancing for my huge love of food and beer. But long story short, for the next 29 years, I've yo-yoed between 90 kilos and 115. My love of food and beer has never ever diminished. And to be fair, although not as regular or sustained as it should be, I still enjoy and enjoyed exercise. In 2021, I required a full knee replacement, and today, 5 years later, the other knee has also succumbed to Mr. Arthritis. So today I'm 69 years old, 1.87 metres tall, and I weigh 117 kilos, so I'm fully classed as obese. I absolutely hate looking in the mirror side on. The reflection is definitely unflattering, in fact quite revolting. I need to change, or inevitably will become 3 kilos of grey ash scattered at the bottom of the garden. So this is my start of my story, which has the aim of shedding 22.5 kilos of fat, blubber, adipose fat-like oleaginous suet, whatever you want to call it, and of course losing the spare tyre, beard belly, moobs, and a chin. The objective being to become healthy, to avoid for as long as possible ending up at the bottom of the garden in the form of grey ash. There are some initial hurdles that I've had to jump before I have started the journey. Number one, and the biggest, was coming out of denial, accepting the fact that I actually had a self-induced medical problem that needed fronting up to. Number two, contacting the doctor and booking an appointment, where I would have to admit in writing to being obese and actually needing help, which would hurt my man pride. At 69, what I could do physically 20 years ago, sadly, is not at the same level. I have to accept that. Again, cutting a long story short, the visit to the doctors turned out actually to be very pleasant. I was not criticised, chastised, or made to feel like a naughty schoolboy. Quite the opposite, I was given words of encouragement and offered help. I had dreaded that visit. In Estonia, we must fill in a questionnaire online before we get the appointment. So I had already, in writing, had to admit to being, in medical terms, obese, and had also had to give a bit of history. The history and the background are demanded, not voluntary. Quite why they wanted to know about my snoring still eludes me. I must have at some point asked them why. When we met, just a few days after filling in the appointment request, I explained that I'd already made some lifestyle changes in the past weeks. Namely, I'd been reducing the beer and food intake and upping the exercise regime. And using my new best friend, ChatGPT, for advice on dieting and other things. I didn't actually reveal, but also researching all the horrific things that might happen to me if I remained obese. I thought better to keep that to myself. I also added that maybe I might fit the criteria for a bit of additional help in the form of a GLP-1 program, Monjovo, Wegovy, Ozempic, that type of thing. She prescribed me Ozempic, semaglutide, and even more dreaded appointment for the bloodletting test. Ozempic is the most commonly used product in Estonia, being the better supported by the prescription service. Yesterday I had my first dose and the dreaded blood test. In Estonia, unfortunately, you cannot hide from the blood test results, which turn up online in what seems like minutes. I won't go to too much detail now, I'll save that for later, but on first sight I thought the best thing I should do is alert the undertaker and put him on hold. The blood glucose level, as I suspected, classified me as pre-diabetic. In medical terms, that's a polite way of saying not quite fucked. I consulted my friend ChatGPT. He or she read the results and actually suggested to put the undertaker on hold rather than get him round straight away. And we agreed on a careful diet, exercise, and of course, Ozempic. I now have 8 weeks to start the reversal, get healthier, and limit the self-inflicted damage. My partner suggests that I maybe consider making a diary of my journey, sharing the experience as I go, as it might just be useful or encourage other people in my position. I'll be honest, I was a bit anti to start with, but then softened and decided that I would. Partly for others and partly for the selfish reason that it might make it just a little bit harder for me to fall off the rails. My plan is that I will reasonably regularly update my journey. I will honestly share as much as I can of my progress, any side effects, any regressions or setbacks, and probably just as importantly, the mental side. So my journey has started. I really do hope I succeed. I hope that if you have stumbled across this, that you find it interesting or will find it interesting and maybe follow the journey. And perhaps it will either help you or give you encouragement. I am very lucky. I have the support of a partner at home, and that's a very important part of the jigsaw. I know she's going to be there for me. Thank you for watching, and I will keep you posted, and have a good day. Bye.